specifically. Hi, Sujata. Welcome.
Hi, how are you, Karthik?
Good, good, good. How are you doing?
Well, we have a bit of a situation in the house. I just informed you, so let's see. But we'll be able to do the talk regardless.
Thank you so much, Sujata. And we have about 25 people with us for this workshop. And I was just doing a brief introduction saying that we at the Happiness Collective are basically an NGO that's bringing together curated mental health content, resources, events, and programming on a completely free basis, and particularly focused on the issues that people are facing during this pandemic and during this crisis that we're all facing together in India. So one of our most important series and what we're focusing on is the issue of wellness. And Sujata, of course, is an expert on this topic and has written a wonderful book on it. And that book is in three parts: mind, body, and spirit. There was a talk that was done last week where she covered the all three. And now we're doing a series of detailed deep dives. And today we'll really be talking about the mind, and the issues of compassion, of gratitude, of self-awareness, and various things from Sujata's book. Just briefly on Sujata's background, she's a very well-known life coach and wellness consultant, trained in CTI Singapore, and has assisted various organizations and individuals with their wellness goals using this very unique research-based approach. She also writes a column called Wellness Sutra for Mint that some of you may have read. Before this, she was working in business development for GlaxoSmithKline, one of the world's largest pharmaceutical companies in Mumbai. She's been trained in the United States as a biological scientist with various peer-reviewed publications. She did her doctoral training at the NIH, Child and Human Development Institute. That's the National Institute of Health in Bethesda, Maryland, in DC. And there she specifically worked on pathways of stress-related immune suppression, an issue which has enormous relevance right now, after doing her bachelor's in genetics from the University of Wisconsin. And she also has a PhD from the University of Kentucky, Lexington, in toxicology. So with that illustrious background, we're very, very fortunate. And also she presents the information in a very accessible way. I'm actually going to stop here and hand it over to my colleague Garima, who is going to then do the Q&A after Sujata's lecture and pretty much lead the rest of this event. Garima is a trained anthropologist and psychologist and the community manager at the Happiness Collective. Before working for us, she was working in education and arts curation with various museums in the United States and India. And she has very much been leading our work here in this space. And if I can add, it is Garima's birthday today. So all of us can wish her a happy birthday. And over to you, Garima. A very happy birthday. And thank you, Sujata, for being with us. Over to you guys.
Thank you, Karthik. Good evening, everyone. My name is Garima, and I'm part of the Happiness Collective. I am very happy to be working today on my birthday because this is work that I love, of community building around mental and emotional wellness. And I'm so happy that you've joined all of us tonight for the first workshop in a three-part series of mind, body, and spirit wellness with Dr. Sujata Kelkar Shetty, brought to you by us at the Happiness Collective. As Karthik has already briefly introduced, the Happiness Collective is a community of citizens that has come together in a time of crisis to share empathy, kindness, and gratitude and improve our emotional and mental well-being. Emotional wellness and mental health is something that's really come to the forefront of everyone's attention during these times. So with our social media channels and calendar of events, we provide curated digital content and programming like talks and performances and workshops like this one. And we also engage our members with professional mental health and wellness resources and experts. Our social media links are in the chat box. And for those watching on YouTube Live, they're in the description. Today's workshop will focus on the mind. Dr. Sujata will lead us through exercises on things like mindset, self-awareness, self-compassion, and gratitude for you to take away what steps you can achieve for your personal wellness of the mind. We will also have a Q&A at the end of the workshop where Dr. Sujata will be answering our questions. Dr. Sujata herself needs no introduction. She is the best-selling author of 99 Not Out, Your Guide to a Long and Healthy Life. It's a book that I read from front to end when Dr. Sujata and I were working on these series of workshops. And as a young person, I can tell you it is an amazing resource if you're trying to get into mental and emotional wellness. It is accessible, it is easy to read, it is backed by facts. So do check the book out after this workshop, and I'm sure you'll take a lot away from this workshop itself. So without further ado, I'm just going to hand it over to Dr. Sujata, And thank you so much again, everyone, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Garima. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
We spoke a few times today and I didn't get to wish you. So really wish you all the very best for the year ahead. And yes, excited to be doing this workshop today. It's quite a pleasure and an honor to be here with the Happiness Collective, through the Happiness Collective. And this is the mind section of the workshop, right? What we would call the most important section. And everything that we cover today, all the concepts that we cover today are based on the book. Garima, could you go back to the previous slide, please? Based on the book 99 Not Out, Your Guide to a Long and Healthy Life, where all the concepts that we talk about today will be covered in a greater depth, and they have all the research evidence. So I'm not really going to focus so much on the research as on the how, right? Because that's what we're here for today. I know all of your times are precious. I know you've taken time out of a busy life, of a hectic life, particularly with all that we're going through right now. So we're just going to focus on the why and the how. The first aspect of the mind that we're going to look at today is mindset. Next slide, please. If you could play the video, Garima. Can they hear it?
I tell you this, once upon a time, families stayed together. But this will not be true in my era. This is a quick fix society. Experts tell me 30 years from now, I will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of my divorce. I do not concede. I am part of a lost generation, and I refuse to believe that I can change the world. I realize this may be a shock, but happiness comes from within is a lie, and money will make me happy. So in 30 years, I will tell my children they are not the most important thing in my life. My employer will know that I have my priorities straight because work is more important than family. I tell you this, once upon a time, families stayed together. But this will not be true in my era. This is a quick fix society. Experts tell me 30 years from now, I will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of my divorce. I do not concede that I will live in a country of my own making. In the future, environmental destruction will be the norm. No longer can it be said that my peers and I care about this earth. It will be evident that my generation is apathetic and lethargic. It is foolish to presume that there is hope. And all of this will come true unless we choose to reverse it. There is hope. It is foolish to presume that my generation is apathetic and lethargic. It will be evident that my peers and I care about this earth. No longer can it be said that environmental destruction will be the norm. In the future, I will live in a country of my own making. I do not concede that 30 years from now, I will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of my divorce. Experts tell me this is a quick fix society, but this will not be true in my era. Families stayed together once upon a time. I tell you this, family is more important than work. I have my priorities straight because my employer will know that they are not the most important thing in my life. So in 30 years, I will tell my children, money will make me happy is a lie, and true happiness comes from within. I realize this may be a shock, but I can change the world, and I refuse to believe that I am part of a lost generation.
So the reason to share this palindrome with you is because it's about mindset, right? So if you notice the way the palindromic poem went, there was a certain mindset in the first half of the poem and a certain mindset in the second. And our mindsets affect our life in such a fundamental way that if we choose the right mindset, we can change the trajectory of our lives, preserve our health, build our resilience, and create good habits, right? So mindsets are what? Mindsets are just beliefs then. They're powerful beliefs, but they're just something in your mind, and you can change your mind. These are not my words. These are the words of Carol Dweck, a world-renowned developmental psychologist who wrote on mindset. And she makes a really important point, right? The point that she's making is that you really need to examine your beliefs. And what we are going to really look at, there's several kinds of mindsets we could look at, but what we're going to focus on today is growth mindsets and fixed mindsets. And I'm going to convince you, or at least I hope to convince you, that the growth mindset is a mindset that we must choose to inhabit. But let's look at the two briefly, right? So a fixed mindset first is the belief that you're born with certain abilities or talents that are fixed both in quantity and quality, and that there's little that you can do to change them, right? Now, what happens with that mindset is that it's difficult to take risks because you believe that you only have a limited ability. Then why risk something and fail, right? You also don't believe in effort because if you're inherently talented, then things should come easy. So why bother with effort? It also makes you less likely to work on healthful behaviors or change your lifestyle and habits because you're who you are and you can't do much about them. Now, the fact of the matter is that 90% of the risk of getting lifestyle illnesses, research shows us this, and my book talks about it more, is attributed to habits like not getting enough exercise, not getting enough fresh fruits and vegetables. And if you don't believe that you can learn new habits while letting go of old ones, then you're at a distinct disadvantage, right? You also are more prone to stress. Now, I hope you have a fairly good idea of what a fixed mindset is, right? And I'm hoping that you're convinced that it's one not worth keeping. One mindset that is worth your while then is one where you can honestly tell yourself, I believe my qualities and talents can be developed. I can change my habits if I choose to, because I'm capable of learning and growing over my lifetime. And there is biological basis for this. The biological basis is that our brains are plastic. Our experiences change our brains, strengthening certain abilities or dulling them, depending upon the nature of the experience. And this is called self-directed neuroplasticity. Self-directed because we can choose our experiences, the ones that will strengthen us in certain ways. Now, here is also the interesting bit, right? When we're in the process of learning something new, it takes effort on the part of the brain because you're forming new neural networks, there's more brain activity than when we already learned something. And when we're learning, we're making mistakes. And though the brain doesn't judge them as these, it works hard to incorporate the new information into coherence with heightened activity. So the more mistakes you make then, the stronger your brain gets. And the stronger your brain gets, the less prone you're going to be to all kinds of mental health issues, whether it's brain decline, depression, right? As my neurobiology professor put it, if you use it, you don't lose it. And therefore, the growth mindset also makes us more prone to engage in healthful behaviors, which makes sense. And it also gives us a chance to explore new avenues for ourselves when situations like this pandemic have come up, right? Now, this pandemic may have left us without a job, but in a growth mindset, we could look at this as an opportunity to gain new skills, different skills, spend more time with family, connect better with our children, learn to cook, as I have, with no cook in my life these days, or learn to give a talk where electricity keeps going on and off, as is the case for me right now. So it's important for us to then consider our mindsets and encourage ourselves to inhabit the growth mindset. And for most of us in our childhood, we grew with fixed mindsets. So it is a shift that you need to make, an effort that you need to make, but the gains just outweigh anything that you could imagine while inhabiting a fixed one. So it's important that you convince yourself to make the shift. I hope I've done that for you. And if I haven't, I think Mr. Naresh Kumar will. So the next slide, please, Garima. Naresh Kumar is a very well-known tennis player, right? For those of you who aren't into tennis, don't watch tennis regularly. And this is not in your generation, but he was someone who was the captain of the Davis Cup. He played 101 matches at the Wimbledon, and a Dronacharya award winner. And the thing about him is that he is now 90 years old, right? And one of the features of my book is that I have interviewed several octogenarians and nonagenarians, and he was one of them. Delightful gentleman to talk to, and I felt very fortunate to have a chance to speak with him. And when I spoke to him, right, he was very emphatic about the importance of mindset. And this is what he said. He said, tennis has taught me to stay in the mindset of preparedness. Preparedness is necessary because luck is like a train that keeps going round and round. You can miss it if you aren't ready. You need to be prepared for it so that you can jump on when it comes. Tennis has also taught me to never give up, because while playing a match, things can change in a minute. So when you get down, get up quickly and keep playing. And from the mindset of not giving up emerges something else. When faced with a challenge, it is simply no good to keep doing the same thing. You need to apply yourself in detail and be strategic to overcome the challenge. Find your strengths and focus on them. And then he goes on to talk about how he went about winning against teams that were stronger than his because of his strategy. And then he said at the end, a game is a shortened version of life. If you can play a sport, you can live life well. And the point that he is making, and the one that I want you to take home, is that it's important to have a mindset of never giving up. It's important to be prepared because, like Mr. Naresh Kumar said, luck is like a train. It keeps going around and you can miss it if you're not ready. So be prepared for the chances that are going to come your way, because they will come your way. But you can't be prepared if you are if you're not in the growth mindset. You can't be prepared if you aren't strengthening yourselves, building yourself, even through adversity. Choosing this as an opportunity to think of the ways that you can build yourself, make yourself stronger. And Carol Dweck writes in The Mindset that you can look back and say, I could have been, polishing your unused endowments and trophies, or you can look back and say, I gave my all for the things I valued. Think about what you want to look back and say, right? Consciously consider your mindset. A person who believes they must never give up, that preparedness is key, and learns wellness habits will not only survive this challenging time, the kind of time that we're all in, but will also build resilience along the way. And that takes us to the next wellness habit, wellness principle, if you will. And that's on self-awareness and mindfulness, right? So what are self-aware people then? They're people who tend to act consciously rather than react passively. It's about being able to monitor our emotions and thoughts. And by monitor, I mean just be aware of them, right? And self-awareness plays a really important role in professional success. They found that leaders who are self-aware have better interpersonal skills, and they end up delivering better financial performance. So self-awareness then is a necessary condition also for being mindful, because that's an aspect that we wanted to talk about with it, because the two go together. Now, being mindful is about being aware of both one's thoughts and emotions, and at the same time, being aware of what's happening externally. And the Chinese character for mindfulness really illuminates its meaning perfectly. So the Chinese character is really a composite of two: the character for now and the character for heart and mind. So mindfulness then is about keeping your mind where your body is, in the here and the now. It's about keeping your heart and mind in the now. And when we look at that, it naturally makes sense that your mind is then going to be focused on one thing at a time. There's no question of the mind having a jumble of thoughts in it, right? The mind can't be full of thoughts, full of ideas simultaneously. Creativity is about having a mind full of ideas, but that's a different sort of space. But on a day-to-day basis, when we're going through our day, being mindful is a really, really powerful wellness habit to inculcate. And I'm going to give you a quick study description to really bring home the point. And this is the only study that I'm going to talk to you about. I know it's the end of the day for all of you, but it's a really important study. So I want you to focus and listen. The study was called the Counter-Clockwise Study. It was done by Ellen Langer, the first woman psychologist at Harvard in the 1970s. It was a study on mindfulness. And she took a group of 70 and above year old men. She divided them into two. One group was sent off for a nice holiday at a spa for 2 weeks. And the other group was taken into a house, right? So and they knew all of this, of course. They knew about the study design, and they knew what they were getting into. And the second group was then put in a house, right? And the first group that was sent off to a spa were told that they were to meet and greet each other and talk about the past, right? Talk about their lives, talk about their careers, their wives, their families, etc. The other group had a far more challenging ask. They were required to actually behave as if they were 20 years younger. So they are in their 70s, some of them have come in wheelchairs, and they're asked to cook for themselves, clean for themselves. They had videos and magazines and newspapers from 20 years ago to jog their memories about political events, social events, world events, environmental events. They were encouraged to talk as if their careers were the way they were when they were in their 50s. Their children were as young as they were in their 50s. Their marriages as they were in their 50s, right? And this went on for 2 weeks. At the end of the 2 weeks, both the groups had done physically and emotionally better, right? So they were all physically better. They'd all slept better. They were, gained a little bit of weight, all of them. But the group that had to act as if they were younger, so they had to be mindful about the way they were behaving, the way they were thinking on a moment-to-moment basis, right? And this effort that they put in reflected in their physical health, reflected in their emotional health, reflected in their mental health. It even went so far as their eyesight having improved. So their eyesight improved, their muscle strength improved, they were sleeping better, they were happier, they were obviously, physically moving around more. And this is a perfect example then of the impact the mind can have on the body when the circumstances are ripe. So we don't need to be part of Ellen Langer's Counter-Clockwise Study to make sure that we really get the best out of our minds and bodies. Our minds and bodies are really beautifully designed, exquisitely designed, capable of healing, capable of extraordinary effort. And it's really up to us, right? It's up to us that we use this resource in the way that serves us. And that was the point of sharing the Counter-Clockwise Study with you. And it tells us in a very distinct way how mindfulness can impact us in just 2 weeks. Yeah. Next slide, please. So the next wellness habit for the mind that I want to talk to you about is compassion. And compassion then is, as the Dalai Lama says, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. So it's really like an extraordinarily powerful wellness habit then. And it's like an orientation of the mind, isn't it? where you're recognizing the universality of the pain in the human experience, and you meet that pain with kindness, with empathy, with equanimity, with patience. And research has shown that people who are, who learn compassion through compassion cultivation training have reduced day-to-day anxiety levels. They are able to be calm or in the face of life events, right? And it is a state of calmness that increases as compared to participants in the same study who did not go through this kind of training. And so the anxiety reduction and the increased calmness was something that lasted even post this training, right? And it's basically because you learn to accept who you are as you are. And that's the crux of it, right? You can't be compassionate towards others without first being self-compassionate. So if your compassion does not extend to yourself, right, it is incomplete. I would go further to say it is not even possible, right? You can't truly be compassionate towards others unless you are self-compassionate first. And what is self-compassion? Self-compassion sits on 3 legs. The first is self-kindness. It's really important that we learn to be kind to ourselves. Yeah. So self-kindness is very important. And that self-kindness is the best example for me to give you is how you would treat your best friend in a situation, right? Is the way that you need to learn to treat yourself. The other piece is mindfulness, being aware of what's going on inside you and around you. And then the third piece is recognizing that we're all interconnected. We're all different boats in the same storm. We're all in this together. We all have unique challenges while we're going through this. And we need to have that level of acceptance, right? Now, when you have these 3, when you're working on these 3, then you build your own self-compassion and it translates into greater compassion for others. So self-compassion then is not indulgence. It is not about indulging yourself. It's actually the opposite. It's about doing what is good for you, right? And self-compassionate people, research has shown, have better physical health, right? And self-compassionate people are kind to themselves when they go through a challenging experience. They offer themselves the same support and kindness as they would to others in that situation, right? While if one is not self-compassionate, then what happens in a challenging situation is that we can be unkind to ourselves. We can be hard on ourselves. We may not look after ourselves in the same way. We may ignore doctors' recommendations. We may fume about the inconvenience of being incapacitated. We might blame ourselves for the illness or injury. A self-compassionate person doesn't do that. That response of self-kindness helps them heal faster, helps them respond to stress better, helps them be more resilient. And that's what we're aiming for here, right? We're looking for increased resilience. And that's what self-compassion gives us. The next mental habit, if you will, that we wanted to talk to you about is laughter. Now, laughter has been found to be incredibly powerful. Laughter as a physical expression of humor. This is important. So it's not just about finding something humorous. It's about laughing out loud. Because that physiological impact of the laughing out loud is that it improves your immunity. It helps you manage your stress. It releases endorphins, which act as a pain reliever. So if you're going through chronic pain, then laughter is a wonderful antidote. Obviously, it's not going to work alone, but it will really assist you in helping you heal your pain. But the thing about laughter is that it works when it is done socially. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't take the opportunity to laugh alone, but what is important is for us to recognize that we need to ideally be in a situation where we are laughing with our friends. And how can we achieve that? We can achieve that by watching funny movies with our family. We can achieve that by watching stand-up comedy with our family. We can do that by having a joke-a-thon with our friends. So on a weekly basis, meet your friends on Zoom and tell each other jokes. Prepare for the event. Find funny jokes that will make you laugh as you're looking for funny jokes. And when you have to tell those jokes to each other, that will be an experience that will really enhance your immunity and help you reduce your stress. And to give you an example of a joke, here's one that I just got forwarded on one of my parent WhatsApp groups. Please play it, Garima.
पापा मैनू लगता है इस बिल्डिंग नाल मेरा पुराना रिश्ता है शायद पिछले जन्म दा ओ साला स्कूल है तेरा लगदा पिछले जन्म दा
Yeah, so if there are any parents on this group with me today, you will fully appreciate the joke there. And moving on, we've got the last mental wellness habit, and that is gratitude. Albert Einstein is attributed with this quote: there are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. Right? So gratitude is derived from the Latin word gratia, which means grace, graciousness, or gratefulness. And expressing gratitude is all of these together, isn't it? It's about being appreciative of whatever we receive, whether it's tangible like a birthday gift or intangible like a tangerine sunset. When we express gratitude, we become conscious of the goodness that surrounds us. This consciousness helps us connect with what is outside of us and larger than us, whether it's nature, other people, spirituality, right? And research on gratitude has shown us that it's really good for your mind and body. Yeah. And so grateful people suffer from fewer physical ailments, they have less chronic pain, they sleep better, right? And it's also predictive of good health. Now, how can you inculcate gratitude in your life, right? So all of the wellness habits of the mind that we've talked about today are muscles that you can build. Please understand, right, that when you are in a growth mindset, which I hope I've invited you to inhabit and today, then you know that you can work on every single habit, and research shows us this, right? It's already proven that you can work on all of these, including gratitude. So gratitude then can work in many ways, right? You can strengthen your muscle vis-a-vis gratitude by minding your senses. What do I mean by that? Well, I'll show you by illustration. Today was a long day for me, right? Really long, busy. And what I did 10 minutes before I had to serve lunch to my family was I went out. We have a little green space, and I went out and I just sat in the grass and I looked out around me and I found 3 different kinds of butterflies, which I hadn't noticed before. I'd been so busy. I'd seen one kind, and then I noticed that there were 3 different kinds. And because I was so attentive to their fluttering wings for those 10 minutes, that has become one of the most cherished moments of my day. And I felt deeply grateful that I had had a chance to experience that and connect with nature in that way, right? So minding your senses is really about opening your eyes, noticing, right? Smelling, hearing, tasting, and enjoying the moment for what it is. It's a really, it is actually what makes our lives worth living. And it can be sharing that smile with your husband. It can be about noticing something that your son has done or achieved. It can be about, like I said, the butterflies in your garden or in your balcony, etc. The second one is making a vow. So research has shown us that if we make a vow, we're more likely to practice gratitude. So I invite you to do that, right? Make a vow. The third is fake it till you make it. So here we mean, just practice saying thank you before you go to bed, when you get up in the morning, whenever you remember. Just thank the higher power, thank the people around you. Make it a habit to be grateful, right? Make it a habit so that people associate you with gratefulness. And you will start to feel it as you practice faking it. And the easiest place to start is to have a gratitude journal. So find a notebook that you like and put it next to your bedside with a pen. And before you go to bed, write down 5 things that you're grateful for. I find that it works. And those 5 things don't have to be miraculous things. It can be simple things like the coffee you enjoyed in the morning, the half an hour nap you took in the afternoon, the yoga class that you attended, whatever it is that inspires that feeling of gratitude, right? And you'll find that over time, you will become a more and more grateful person, and grateful people are happy people. The two go hand in hand. Yeah. Now, finally, before we open the floor to questions, I wanted to address building habits because, attending these kind of webinars is all well and good. And it's certainly the first step because it reminds us of things that we already know or shows us new things that perhaps we didn't know, or allows us to look at things we already knew, but in a new light, in a different context. But all of that will come to naught unless we inculcate those wellness habits into our lives. And building habits is something that is a choice that we deliberately make at some point and then stop thinking about, but continue doing often every day, right? This is Charles Duhigg. He's written a book on habit. You're welcome to read it. But he makes a really important point. He's really thought about this and researched it for a while. And psychologists have actually understood how habits work. Garima, next slide, please. And this is how they understand habits. There's a cue, right? There's a routine. The routine is actually the habit itself. And then there is a reward. So you've got the cue, you've got a routine, and you've got a reward. So we're going to now invite Garima to talk about her experience with stress eating, something that we, many of us, probably engage in, and particularly right now when times are stressful, it's something that we might be engaging in. So it becomes an important habit for us to address and find ways of replacing with a good one, because it's certainly not useful to us. Stress eating leads to weight gain. Stress eating leads us to not feel good about ourselves. And whatever we eat when we are stress eating is certainly not healthy for our bodies or our minds. So Garima, I want to ask you, considering this habit loop, right? Looking at this habit loop, what was your cue for stress eating? What was the routine and what was the reward? The cue must have been the stressful situation, but go ahead. I'll let you share your story. Thank you.
Thank you, Sujata. So this stress eating, and thank you, Sujata, for inviting me to share this on this workshop. And thank you to everyone listening. It's very significant for me to talk about stress eating today because a couple of months ago, I told myself that by my birthday, I hope that I am not a stress eater anymore. And I think for the most part, I'm not. And stress eating basically looks like this, right? You are sad, you are stressed, you haven't slept, you had a long day, so you turn to a piece of chocolate, or you eat an extra biscuit, or actually it's not even an extra biscuit. In my case, it was extra 2 packets of biscuits, right? And I realized that there was something really wrong with that when my doctors and my family members and my friends started telling me that, look, things are getting a bit out of hand, you've gained a lot of weight. And the answer to that was not telling myself like, oh, just exercise and eat healthy and you'll be fine, right? Because stress eating is a problem of the mind. It's a problem of mindset. It's a problem of your mental habits. So what I realized that my cue for stress eating was a stressful situation. Right? If I was sad, I would just pick up a bar of chocolate to eat. If I was bored, I would pick up something to eat. And that became routine, right? As you see in the habit loop. So it became routine because in the afternoon, when I would be done with most of my work for the day, I would be like, okay, I'm bored. Let me get some biscuits and I'll eat that. And that routine leads to reward because in that moment, you feel really satisfied and good. Because first of all, sugar has a physical effect on the body, right? It increases your endorphins. And second of all, I'm a foodie, I have an emotional relationship with food. So there was that immediate sense of having had something yummy, right? And that becomes a cycle. So you get bored, you get stressed, you turn to food, that becomes a
How
habit.
did you change that? What did you do to replace that habit?
Absolutely. So the first thing was identifying the cue, obviously, right? So and the way I identified that was through mindfulness. Before, when I would stress eat, I didn't actually consciously realizing that I was stress eating. So I started noticing, when do I eat, when do I binge? And I realized I eat and binge when I'm sad, or when I'm stressed, or when I'm bored, right? So what I did was recognize that that cue wanted a response, right? So I was trying to feel better by eating. So I realized that I could replace that with anything else that made me feel better. So I replaced it with watching TV, or I replaced it with talking to friends, or I replaced it by taking a walk, right? And so over time, that routine changed. It went from just picking up something to eat to immediately calling up my friend. And it doesn't happen easily. I remember from the first day when I decided that, okay, I'm not going to be a stress eater anymore, it took me 4 months to come to a point where I realized that, wow, I am stressed. And the first thing that I want to grab is not a piece of chocolate, but my phone to call my friend. So it does take time. But once it becomes routine, it becomes effortless, right? Because your brain changes, your brain starts looking for different things. So that's how
Exactly. So there you've made a new habit, and then and that's why it becomes effortless. This was a beautiful share. Thank you so much, Garima. It took courage and honesty, honesty of course, and that took courage. So thank you for that. And so guys, I think we're at the end of the workshop. I'm just looking at the time. Why don't we take questions, and any questions that you have outside of the ones that we get a chance to take today, we'll definitely go into in our we can email the answers to them, right? Or we can post them on the Happiness Collective. Yeah,
definitely. So for everyone in the audience, the way the questions are going to work is that you can use a button on the bottom of your Zoom screen to raise your hand. And once you raise your hand, I can unmute you. And then I would invite you to switch on your video and ask your question to the group. But if that's something that you're not comfortable with, please feel free to send your questions in the chat. And you can also message me personally. And then I can ask Dr. Sujata to answer those questions for us. So I think Karthik already has a question. Karthik, would you like to start?
Yes, sure. It's just more in the nature of a comment to thank Sujata for an amazing lecture. I was listening intently, and the frameworks that you provided were so useful, Sujata. And two of them resonated in particular. The bit about gratitude, obviously, right, as an all-encompassing virtue, and this notion of doing it every morning and every evening. So I think that was amazing. I think also the notion about stopping to reflect and soak in the everyday joys. The example that you gave about seeing the 3 butterflies in the garden, for me, it's like kaju and kishmish, my cats, as an example. I could be in the middle of a work day, a lot of stress or something, and then they'll cuddle up next to me. So just being conscious of that, right? It forces me to be mindful and slow down and realize that whatever stresses are going on email, this is like in the moment, I have this beautiful animal, who's here with me. And the second bit that I really liked was on self-compassion. That's something that I myself have learned, Sujata, over the last year or two. A lot of people have told me to practice that more. And I realized what an intrinsic part of being compassionate to others it is. I never realized that unless you're self-compassionate, it's hard to have empathy for others, right? I had read somewhere today, I wanted to read it out, that empathy for others depends upon having also empathy for previous versions of yourself, right? And linking this to judgment. So judgment is basically a natural outcome of lack of self-empathy. So all of these things are actually linked. So self-compassion is so powerful that if one practices that, it has like a powerful outward effect also. So it's amazing how powerfully you put it. And those two examples also, Mr. Naresh Kumar and that palindrome.
Thank you, Karthik. Thank you for your kind words.
Thanks.
It's such a pleasure to be here, really. We have time, guys. Happy to take more questions.
Miss Aditi has a question. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, yes. Nice to see you again.
It's really wonderful. Really, it's sort of it's becoming a habit now. Just talking to you and seeing all these lovely young faces, it's so wonderful that everybody's trying to make themselves feel better. That itself is generating such a powerful kind of an emotion where, people are coming together and they want to take their life into their hands and make things better. This is a very important question to me. To my mind, there is no question about it. But for the young people, I notice this all the time, that, for example, there are activities which we do every single day, like we eat, or we do certain other things which are part of our life, but we are simultaneously doing 3 and 4 other things. So whether that certainly does not contribute to being mindful. Because if you are looking at your telephone, at messages, you're putting on music, you're putting on the television, and you're full of your ideas and you want to talk and tell everybody, let's say at the table, what's the most important thing that happened to your life. The food is completely ignored. It's like whether some garbage is sitting in front of you. And I'm just saying, that it's not that some people don't appreciate the food that's sitting in front of them, but I find that very, very, very stressful, actually, that you should not focus on this almost, I would call it a spiritual activity of eating what you are, focusing on the food, being grateful, being mindful, and making it something that will make you feel better, rather than it becoming something that you'll not be able to even digest because it's being taken with the wrong kind of emotions. So that's one thing that I want you to say, whether in our daily activities, whether it's taking a bath, everything is done in a kind of a rushed manner, as if you want to just get done with it. It's a chore. Let's be done with it. Eating is a chore, bathing is a chore.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Aditi Kaki. I totally agree with you. The brain is
how to understand the overriding importance of this, because this is happening day in and day out to us, and how that can contribute actually to our happiness if we make that. And the other thing is the difference between being self-indulgent and selfish, or being what you call being kind to oneself. I mean, you already pointed that out, but with some solid examples, we think we are indulging ourselves, whatever I feel like doing, let me just do that. And I'm being kind to myself,
I think you bring up 2 extremely important points. The first one is, our brains are actually not created for multitasking. Our brains are created for sequential work, sequential sequential effort. That's the way the brain works, and that's the way we're meant to work. So we are definitely meant to attend to only one thing at one time. And when we attend to more than one thing at one time, there are errors. And there's plenty of research to show that multitasking actually doesn't work, and that multitasking is stressful. And to reduce stress, we need to reduce this multitasking attitude that the world seems to be overtaken with. And the second piece, I fully agree with you that self-kindness, self-compassion is not the same as self-indulgence. In fact, it is the opposite. So, it is about disciplining yourself. It is about doing what is right, not doing what you want to do, because often what you feel like doing isn't the right thing for you to do, whether it's for your sake or your family's sake. And it's important to identify what it is that is right, and then to have the discipline to go about and do it. And the discipline part is more easy to accomplish when you put habits into place. So like, the example that Garima gave, now that she has spent those 3-4 months investing in her habit with stressful eating, she no longer has to worry about that. And she didn't mention this, but she has lost a substantial amount of weight, which was one of the things that she wanted to achieve over 6 months because of changing that habit. It was probably not the only thing that she changed in her life, but that was certainly a powerful piece, because 70% of our weight gain is because of how we eat, and has nothing to do with whether we exercise or not. And therefore, I think, so that was an act of self-kindness on her part. It wasn't easy. It wasn't what she felt like doing, but it was the ultimate act of self-compassion. And the same thing goes for these other habits that we talked about, right? Whether it's gratitude, even if it doesn't feel like it's part of the way that you lead your life today, it's an important habit to inculcate, because it's going to give you so many rewards in the future. Research shows us that. Look around you. You'll notice the grateful people are the happy people. Those two go hand in hand. The same thing goes with being mindful as well, right? So, yeah, I think any other questions?
We do have a question. We have a question from someone who's asked this anonymously. They are asking that they understand the fake it till you make it framework. They agree with everything that you just said. But in times of the pandemic, and especially as a young person feeling very demotivated about their future, how do you find the energy to actually put all of this in practice in your life?
Well, I think this is where your mindset comes in, right? If you think there needs to be a shift in perspective. If you think of this as an opportunity, the lack of energy and the lack of motivation is because there is an inherent belief somewhere that things are not looking any better, things are not going to change. And it's a hopeless space, a hopeless perspective that has been inhabited. And it's not unnatural to feel that way. So please don't think I'm judging you at all. The reason we're doing this is to inspire you to shift your perspective so that you can look at your life and see the hidden opportunities. Whether it is working on your fitness, whether it is a chance to work on your relationships, whether it is a chance to eat better, whether it's a chance to learn to cook or to cook better. There are many opportunities that just being at home gives us. And this is an opportunity to explore them, build skills, right? As a young person, yes, perhaps, yes, it's true that, employment is looking gray right now. Yes, it's true that socially we are stuck, but there are ways in which you could keep yourselves and not just busy, right? Engaged in a manner that serves you when things get better, because they will get better. At least that you have to agree with. Whoever has posted this has to agree with me that things will get better, because that's the nature of things. Things have to improve. This pandemic is going to come to an end. Employment opportunities are going to emerge. And I know that, being in your 20s, you have experienced 2 recessions. So it hasn't been easy. But use every single hardship to your advantage. Make yourself stronger through this time. Tell yourself, I'm going to get stronger. I'm not going to let this defeat me. I'm only going to get stronger. Because guess what? If you've survived a pandemic like this one, what can life possibly throw at you after this? What could be possibly worse?
And I think that's also the only option we have, right? To like cultivate that mindset of growth where we work on what we can control so that this pandemic.
And there is a lot you can do. That is the purpose of these workshops. It's for you to see how much you can actually do right now. So don't tell yourself you can't do anything. Don't give in to the Netflix binge. Choose to do other things. And, soon you're going to need all those skills. Garima, I wish I had learned to cook better when I was younger, right? Because now everything takes me so much time. Cutting the onions, cutting the tomato, right? Because I have to go right from the beginning to the end. And I'm not alone in this, so I'm not feeling sorry for myself. I'm happy we're all healthy in our family right now. But it takes me time. And thank God for those YouTube videos that are showing me how to cook, so I can actually produce palatable food for my family. But I wish I had mastered this a lot sooner. So, use this time, young people, to master these life skills. Because when life gets busy, you will be really efficient at stuff. And when things are not quite going the way that they normally do, as our lives are right now, you'll be able to take care of the things that, people like me have to now spend hours doing. And therefore, work then gets done at a later time. And so yes, please take this as an opportunity. This is the only way to look at it. Look at the silver lining in the dark cloud. Focus on that and take this as an opportunity for building your resilience. Because honestly, life can't possibly get any worse. Yeah. Thank you.
I just want to be mindful of the fact that we are beyond 8 p.m. and the event was supposed to end at 8. Dr. Sujata, would you be happy to stay for a couple of more minutes for questions? Because we have.
Yes.
Lovely. The same for the audience. If you would like to stay for questions, please do. For those who have to leave, I am going to send the social media links of the Happiness Collective to all of us, so you can join our community and keep up with workshops like these. And for everyone else who is going to stay, we have another question. How do you get rid of the negativity that generates when you disagree with someone who practices unkindness? This is a really important question, I think, because we've talked about compassion, we've talked about self-compassion, but what do you do when someone else is not compassionate towards you?
Can you give me an example? Is the person willing to talk?
It's an anonymous question, but I can give an example. So for example, if I, as a young person, I'm trying to cultivate self-compassion and tell myself, it's okay, you haven't done this in life by now, but if you work on it slowly, you'll get there. But your parents tell you, oh, you haven't done this, you don't do this properly, you should have gotten into a college by now, you should have been married by now. So how do you cultivate self-compassion when there is so much negativity coming from an external source?
Okay, so I understood the question differently. I was thinking more in the context of what's going on around us. I thought that's what the question was about. But if it is directed at you, then I think you just have to find a way of not letting it get to you. And I know that's hard, but it's imperative that you create a self-concept where, and when you genuinely inhabit a growth mindset, it's not going to bother you, right? So when you genuinely believe and you've set goals for yourself and you know you're working at improving certain aspects of your life, you're really not going to care about what anybody else has to say, because you're going to be really busy working on these aspects. And you're going to know this is the journey you've had so far. This is what you've covered, right? And the other thing I invite you to do when this happens, right, if there is a day this happens, is write 5 things that you're proud of. If it's one of those days, right, when somebody has been really shitty to you, excuse my language, then write down 5 things you're proud of. And they don't have to be big things. They can be small things. And send them to somebody who you feel safe with. Whether it's your best friend or it's your dog, you can just tell your dog those 5 things. Or it is your mother or whoever it is, right? Somebody who is safe for you. Just share those 5 things with that person. And if you need to do it consistently for some time, just do it consistently for some time. And you'll find yourself feeling better, because we rarely, look at all the good things we have done in the day. We rarely do that. So in fact, through this time, I invite everybody to do it anyway. Write those 5 things down and send it to a friend, or make that part of the happiness collective, perhaps. Make that part of how you are engaging with the community. And allow people to share what they are proud of. And I think it's really a wonderful activity. I've been doing that with my coach. Coaches also have coaches. So, and I love it. I actually look forward to it. It's like my end of the day treat.
I don't think, if everyone is comfortable, why don't we all share in the chat something that we're proud of what we did today? So, okay, here's an exercise. Let's do this. I'm going to invite everyone to type in your chat box something that you did today that you're proud of. And then we'll all press the button, send together. And then I will read out what everyone has. And if you're not comfortable sharing, that's totally okay.
Or you could share it anonymously, right?
Or you could share it with me privately and I can tell the audience.
Yeah, maybe, let everyone do the exercise, even if they're not comfortable sharing their names.
Let's do it. Okay, let's type.
I don't know how to type.
Auntie, just tell us.
Yeah, okay. So, there was a lot of stress with the household help because there are 3 people and each one is like stressed out because of the times, and they don't know how to deal with it. So they're trying to bring the other person down. And with me also, there is a lot of stress is created. So I decided this is not going to happen, So I'm not going to buy into this whole scenario. And I'm just going to let it pass, smile, say thank you. And so it has made a hell of a lot of difference. I just say thank you like 10 times, The guy comes in the morning, he's got some stress because he had a headache or whatever, he's stressed that he's not cooking, somebody else is cooking, that fellow did a bad job, whatever it is. And so, I'll say, hi, good morning, how was your day? Did you sleep well, etc., etc. And, even if he does a little thing, it doesn't do anything, I'll just find an opportunity to just thank him, say, how are you feeling or whatever.
Oh, that's perfect. That's really perfect, Kaki.
I cannot tell you what a huge difference it's made to the peace in the house. All these 3 people are like very stressed out because each doesn't want to see the face of the other one, and maybe they don't want to see my face either. So there are 4 balls rattling, with each other, banging with each other and creating a lot of dissonance. So it has really made a difference because I just made up my mind and I am controlling what I'm saying, and it is giving me such a fantastic response. The other day, this fellow said, I don't want to work with you, I said, there was a shirt which was torn or burnt. So he has BD. I said, did you made the mistake? I broke my own this thing. One was total acceptance. Like whatever happens, whatever goes wrong, they put the fridge and everything got melted. The ice cream, they to defrost without removing anything. So anyway, and he said, the pizza thing got molded because he put it somewhere else, not in the fridge, right? And he's saying, I'm not eating pizza, why should I put it in the fridge? I mean, the cook is saying, I'm not eating the bread is for these 2. So why should I put it in the fridge? Things like that, really kind of very... So I told him gently, I said, something, we are so connected with each other. Whatever we do affects the other person also. So unless we look after one another, if you look after us, we will also look after you. So, so the message is getting there slowly.
That's excellent. Aditi Kaki, I hate to interrupt you, but we need to get through everyone else's messages as well. And we're running out of time. Yeah?
Definitely. Thank you, Aditi, for sharing. That was such a beautiful example of being kind to everyone in our daily lives. If everyone in the audience is ready, and if you haven't typed your answers already, please go ahead and do so. We have, I helped raise funds for an NGO today. Congratulations, whoever did that. I hugged my father after a month. I know this person who's in this workshop, and they were COVID positive, and they have finally been able to meet their parents. Thank you so much for sharing. I learned to cook chicken today. Congratulations. I prepared biryani today for lunch, and it was a working Wednesday. That is actually a significant achievement. To be able to make lunch when you have work to do is something that I haven't mastered yet. I got elected as head of the university club that works towards helping underprivileged groups that I really care about. Some young people are doing very well in their lives. Let's see. Would anyone else like to share? These are such beautiful responses. I think that's everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. Before we close off, I would invite you to answer a poll for the workshop about whether this worked for you or not. At the Happiness Collective, we're trying to intentionally and seriously build resources for mental health and emotional wellness. This is a very difficult time, and we would really appreciate you filling out this poll so that we can have a better sense of what kind of resources we can build for you. So I am going to launch the poll. And it would be, I would be very grateful if you took 2 seconds to fill this out.
Karthik and Garima, I'm going to have to get going, but thanks for the opportunity. And I'm looking forward to our next workshop on Wednesday on the body. Take care, guys.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Dr. Sujata, for joining us.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye. Guys, please be honest in your responses. This feedback is really helpful for us.
It's not going. I'm pressing submit, but it's not going.
That brings us to the end of our poll. Thank you so much for answering. Thank you, everyone, so much for attending this evening, this workshop on wellness of the mind with Dr. Sujata. Dr. Sujata has talked about the importance of laughter, and the Happiness Collective is going to be hosting a comedy night this Sunday, which you will get an invite to in your emails. We hope you enjoyed this evening, and we hope that you can share information about the Happiness Collective with everyone that you think would benefit. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.